origin story from my perspective. We were an informal coalition of groups that came together over a regulatory crisis, whether an independent contractor could reassign a Medicare receivable. Physicians potentially would not be paid if they were a 1099 physician.
We one day woke up and realized that Medicare was not paying us for the services that we're providing. And, that was obviously a huge concern for us.
We decided one of the things that we needed was we needed a letterhead. We needed cover for the individual members. So no one group could be kind of tagged with this issue, because at that time it was viewed as being an issue just with a couple of groups that had been impacted, when it really had impacted everyone. And I think, Bruce, you can talk about how it had impacted you. You were a fairly smaller group then, grew to be much, much larger later on, but I know it impacted you as well.
Yeah, we were small and independent contractors, and the docs wanted to stay independent contractor. We'd already been through an audit and had to fight the IRS based on the regional everybody's doing it rule. And we eventually won that, and then they turned around and did this. So it was like a succession of government hitting you from one side and then the government hitting you from the other side. So we were very happy that somebody was trying to address this problem with the 1099 contractors.
We started out in the early days really just trying to make sure to preserve the reimbursements coming into those groups that had independent contractors. And Dr. Moscow came in from Texas, and Greg Huffstetler and Mitch Cordova, who was with a physician with then Spectrum Health, which became part of MCare, and Jack Greenman from Sterling Health. Those are really the founding members. And we decided to formalize our informal coalition. And one of the things that we were aware of was there was an association of supporting organizations in emergency medicine that had formed years before, and it had failed. And I spoke to several of the folks who founded that trade association, and the reason it failed was the lack of physician leadership.
Well, the really amazing part about it is the ink wouldn't even dry on our incorporation, and the 95 guidelines were introduced and became the biggest issue of the day. And the 95 guidelines arguably would have put us all out of business, because it was going to reduce reimbursement to the physician partners by approximately 20%. Right out of the gate, we sent letters out to not only the legislators but the regulators, and quite frankly prevented the 95 guidelines from going into place, which would have, I think, put many of the smaller groups in the country out of business.
So if you're a 1099 today as a physician, or you have physician clients that are 1099s, that victory was EDPMA's. It was supported by others, but EDPMA was the tip of the spear on that. And I think it's something we're very proud of.
We realized that there was a gap in representation. ACEP represented the individual doctors. There was nobody out there representing the business of emergency medicine. And so, at that initial meeting, we realized the opportunities that we had, and that was really the beginning of the formation of EDPMA.
So one of the key issues that we decided early on was, regardless of size, a little bit like the U.S. Senate, each member organization would have one vote. So that was an important fundamental principle, and that we would be an organization of organization, not an organization of individuals like ACEP is in other professional societies.
I think the value for emergency medicine and for the individual groups was the transfer of information at the Solution Summits. And it turned out these meetings were like, everyone wanted to go to them. They were so needed. And the amazing thing was that big groups would share information with little groups, and people who knew things would share information which normally no one would share. At the EDPMA conferences, people shared information, and you'd come home from those conferences and you would change your behaviors, your billing procedures, and you would make your organization more up to date each year because of EDPMA.
EDPMA wasn't just about the business, and I loved working with people who really focused on what the right thing was to do for the patient. And so, the work that we did early on value-based purchasing around the quality metrics, around patient protections, it was people who were going there to not only learn how to operate your business in the way that you can keep your doors open, but it's also in leading the industry down that path of patient protections, quality of care, and treat patients with dignity and respect.
When you think about the next 25 years, the important thing is the challenges aren't going to go away. There's always going to be challenges, and EDPMA is going to stay relevant.